play it back to Foden again, thumped away, and that will be how the first half concludes. I can't remember either goalkeeper being genuinely stretched, albeit that Oblak has saved a couple of easy gathers from Alvarez, but I suppose the best chance of the match probably came the way of Lamar, but he couldn't quite control it and it bounced off him into the possession of Ederson. It's been feisty, it's been entertaining, there's been plenty to admire, but at half-time here in the Seoul World Cup Stadium, City's final pre-season friendly, it is City 0, Atletico Madrid 0. Well, let's go back to the studio where we can join Nedum, Steph and David in the company of Cel.
Thanks so much to our commentary team, Alistair Mann and Michael Brown. You back with us in the Matchday live studio. As Alistair Mann said there, 0-0 at half-time against Atletico Madrid. Fiery contest, few chances to get into, which we will do in just a second. But Nedum, I want to begin with the formation and how City have kind of lined up, because it was a little tricky to work out kind of initially.
Yeah, it feels like they don't have as many bodies over on the right-hand side, especially higher. But then they do look quite good down the left in some ways. I was waiting to see who was going to be playing right wing, but it doesn't seem like there's someone in there. I think Phil's playing sort of like the right side of a three in midfield, you could say, possibly roaming a little bit to get into the 10 spot. But there's no one really high and wide that could possibly pin back the full-back or the wing-back of Atletico. So it seems like Kyle's having a lot to do to be defensively there, but then being the forward line as well. But overall, it's all right, you know what I mean? It's all right. And nothing too great to write home about, in my opinion. They're defending well, they're moving the ball pretty well overall, but it seems like they're a bit rusty and maybe they're trying something that's a bit different. I don't think we've seen John have to go into midfield as much as, say, we have done in other games, for example, but I think that's because Bernardo and Rodri have been doing quite a good job in there themselves, so it's a little wrinkle, it's something to work on. And what I would say with stuff like this, because I know not to get too down on anything, when they started putting a midfielder into defence in January, February time this year, one of my friends was basically crying his eyes out saying it's the worst formation he's ever seen in the world. I said, just be patient. Once you see people playing well in the setup that's there, you'll understand what the formation's supposed to be. So I don't think it's quite there yet, but I think it'll probably get better even in the second half.
Steph, as an overall first half, though, and what we kind of want to get out of a pre-season game and from what you've seen, what have you made of it?
The only thing that's missing is goals, probably. I think in terms of intensity, I don't think we expected. It doesn't look like a friendly match. It just looks like a normal game that's in a Champions League, which, to say that these boys haven't really trained that long in this pre-season, only had 2 games before, I think the intensity's there. You see people tracking back and absolutely blown at the end. So for them, it'll stand them in good stead. But I think there has been quality from both teams, but just not that final product.
There has been, and speaking of that final product, the ball did end up in the net once in that half. It was a Rodri header, but a disallowed goal, which I think we're thinking was either maybe a foul on the keeper or a block from Laporte. I think hopefully we can see it here.
Grabbed his arm.
Okay, right, I think we can watch it back here now. So it's a lovely ball in, but yeah, rightly to be called off, David.
Yeah. I'm trying to think is it
Stones, I think.
Stones, yeah. I think Stones has just grabbed Oblak's hand. But in answering the other guys' questions, I think this is wonderful 0-0 for a pre-season game, because there are so many different influences on this. One, the quality they're up against.
Yep.
This Atletico side, I mean, so there must be Leicester fans who have sneaked onto City TV to watch this, who are thinking, why wasn't this guy playing every game last season? We'd still be in the Premier League. But also it's a pre-season where the game's been delayed by 45 minutes. And you don't plan that in pre-season because you don't, and then the weather and the conditions there. I think a few of the lads, they're looking at the ball or the pitch, whatever. All these factors will impact on performance, but we've still seen some great opportunities, half chances, whatever. Phil Foden got us a little bit excited at one moment or two. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that's great.
on Phil Foden playing essentially, what have you made? What have you made of him down there?
Well, again, listening to Nedum there, yeah, we are surprised that there isn't anything on the right. It is lopsided to the left. But it's almost like we've got the better ball players. Let's play through the middle using our ball player skill. And it's one of these things that I watch. I remember when I was playing back with the England squad, and you're playing those little keep ball sessions. And you're seeing players just passing within, this is a long way away from each other where we are now. They've got the skill to play around really tight positions, and that's what City do. And that's what Phil Foden does extremely well. And there's a few times there with Alvarez and Haaland where they're just playing little balls in tight spaces and creating half chances. this time next week, the week after, we expect them to score the goals. But what we're seeing is, again, a development which I don't think we saw much of this type of play or this type of tactic last season. So Pep might be on the next page.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a look at, we can kind of play through some of these half chances now. As I say, no massively really clear-cut ones. It feels like maybe Atletico had the best, but not for one for trying Nedum.
No, absolutely not. I think, as I'll let David talk about some shots from outside the box in a little bit. But I think what was good about this is the fact they were applying pressure quite helped the field. And then from the moment they won the ball back, they were very much on the front foot, trying to take it to Atletico. And I think sometimes that is the key, because, the teams that you play against, they won't be in their best version of their shape if you can win the ball higher up and, as I say, put them under a bit more pressure. But overall, some of the movement's been good. The link-up hasn't been perfect, but they keep showing us little glimpses of things that we've seen in seasons gone by, which isn't a bad thing when you're coming off the fact that you've just won a treble the season before. So yeah, there's definitely stuff in there which is exciting.
And I guess, Steph, you'll know, but these are things that, as much, we're not going to be able to pick up where we left off after a summer break. These things take time, and it's time on the pitch and then work back in the training ground to get back up to speed and get up to full kind of the standard they've set themselves, I guess.
Yeah, of course, and over the last few seasons we all know that City don't really start as strong as other teams, but they always peak when they need to, and that was certainly the case last season. And look, these boys won't have had that much of a break since the Champions League final. It seems 5 minutes ago that we were all in Istanbul watching them win the trophy. So yeah, I think there's a lot to do with just getting what you need physically, but them touches and these players, they'll get it back so quick, and it's just trying to find them relationships and that rhythm back again, and this is what these games are there for. Absolutely, and we've seen it in there, even there was some exchanges where it was very crisp passing, and what we also saw, David, was, as we alluded to before the show, some Alvarez shots from outside the box.
Yeah. Nedum lined up very nicely there. The first one, I think, was just a chance. I mean, it wasn't something that he created himself. But the last shot we saw there, I think this is, with him and Haaland, and again, maybe the progression in the way that City have played from last season, it will open up spaces for Alvarez to get those shots off. Unfortunately, I still believe that shooting from outside the box is a very unproductive way of scoring goals. But you look at it, I mean, this is typical build-up in any City game. Normally that would be running towards a player and trying to do another couple of passes to try and get inside the box. But when you've got a player who is capable of scoring from outside the box, more so than I would say Cancelo, who was not the best, even though he had the most shots from outside the box last season. I love that. I love that stat.
You see that chance just there. I think you can see the difference there as well between, say, Alvarez being in the 10 or De Bruyne being in the 10, because in that you could put both players in that same situation with the time that they had. And you saw Haaland making a run towards the back post. And instinctively Kevin will try and find the pass first. Whereas Joleon, he probably didn't see the run, he wants to get the shot off first. So it's a variation that teams on a week-to-week basis will have to go and try and deal with against City, because they are so different.
Yes.
Whatever you prepare for, you might be letting yourself down because the other thing might end up being true.
Yeah, and that was what kind of you said in the early show as well, Steph, that they complement each other really well. There was a great little battle happening on our left-hand side there, right. Grealish and Azpilicueta, they were really having a good go.
God, there weren't there? It's from the first, 20, 30 seconds, I think the first foul was caused. But yeah, it's always going to be an interesting battle between them, because Azpilicueta likes to get tight, he likes to be aggressive, and yeah, he likes to foul by a lot of these pitches, to be honest. But to be fair to Grealish, he keeps going at him, and now he's on a yellow card. I think that would be the way to go for City if he stays on, is just to try and get down their right-hand side, because you've either got to get someone to try and help him, or you leave Grealish 1v1, which at this moment in time he is probably getting the better of him. But Grealish is so clever, he just gets his body in between the player and the ball, and trying to use his strength there a little bit, but trying to make sure that his temper doesn't go. But yeah, it's an interesting battle, but it's good for the next season ahead.
I mean, with that as well, you just can't ever seem to get the ball off Jack. And what is it, a mixture of balance, ball control, A
bit of everything, and I think he obviously preempts them coming as well, so he always gets his body between the ball and the other player, so it's you either got to go around him, and he's so skillful that if you do that, he's gonna miss you completely, or he's gonna go through you, which is a lot of the time that's what happens. But I think Grealish is known for him running with the ball, but he's so strong, and his legs and his core stability must be so unbelievable just because that's what he's used to every single game.
Yeah, it's such a joy to watch. I love seeing it when he's in full flow. Looking at the other end of the pitch, Nedum, we spoke about a couple of City transfers. Atletico, they've also had a few of their own. I think there was a Morata header, and then also Lamar was unlucky to get a ball.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I think they've done well overall in attack. I think some of the link-up play has been very good. They've managed to sort of have one or two little passes and switch the play as well. And they've created problems. I think Griezmann going into the middle, trying to find that sort of 10 space when City have been pressing a bit higher, has been really good. And this year, that little drop of the shoulder, it's so tough to defend against. The Morata, we'll talk about him as if he's brand new, but he's done this for so long now. He puts himself into a great area and he's just a bit unlucky with the header. But these are really good players. And, I think in some ways I'm glad that we're seeing a version of Atletico which isn't the one which we've seen in the Champions League in May when they're just fighting people. Because they are up near the top of La Liga because they play really good football.
Yes.
They can score tons of goals, have a ton of creativity. They've got good runners with the ball, runners without it. Like, look at this here. You're breaking your back in pre-season. That's someone going stride for stride with Kyle Walker, essentially. And if it wasn't for Kyle basically throwing himself in the air, maybe Lamar would have had a better view of where the ball was going to go. But they're a good side. They've got some really good footballers out there. And I think from an attacking perspective, we've definitely seen that through some of the link-up that they've had.
You start looking towards the second half, David. We've seen obviously more or less two different 11s kind of in our previous two pre-season games. But will we see the same, or is it because Arsenal's coming that you almost want to get maybe more than 45 minutes in the players' legs? We're not sure what's going to happen at half-time, but what do you think?
I would think just by the biggest surprise of pre-season, maybe was that starting lineup. I would like to see, shall I say, that same 11 go out for 10, 15 minutes in the second half. I think it's that time of the season where you go, all right, these guys need more, because otherwise you're going to go into an Arsenal game. It's at Wembley, and if everyone's only played sort of 45-minute spells, then no one's going to be able to last the pace for the whole game.
Yes.
So I would hope to see not so many changes. And that was entertaining. I thought it was a really good game of football, and even to the point that people aren't happy on the field because of what's happening. It's kind of, and as with Lescott, quickest booking in a pre-season friendly ever, I think, 15 minutes. Yeah, keep that team on, make the changes later on, then we've got an indication of who we should pick for the Fantasy League next 2 weeks.
Oh, there it is. I actually can't even start thinking about fantasy yet. I'm enjoying the break from it. Looking then for what City maybe would like to be, do you think, improving on? If there's something Pep or that maybe amongst themselves are going, maybe we could be doing that a little bit better to try and maybe get a few more clear-cut chances. What could it be, Steph, do you think?
I think maybe try and get Haaland involved in the game a little bit more. I think he's been really unselfish by stretching the play, but as proven when he has got the ball today, he's caused a lot of problems. He had that little snapshot early on in the first half, and I think if we can get him more involved, and I think what we're doing from Grealish's side in terms of crossing the ball into good areas, I think when you've got someone like Haaland, he can make them crosses happen. But like Nedum mentioned, in terms of the right side of the pitch, can we get someone that can stretch the pitch and make Atletico work?
We as we say, we want to maybe get a few more minutes in the legs. When we do look to that full bench, who are you looking forward to seeing maybe come back on, Nedum?
I'd like to see Kevin, but he didn't really look like he was up for playing football. The way he was dressed up. So I don't know. I think Ake Akanji's, obviously would be nice to see Kevin. I think see more Kovacic.
Yeah.
Phillips.
McAtee, I'd like to see maybe.
Yeah, I'd love to see James out there, but it's just. This is a tough one now. The last game of pre-season is always tough, because if you give everyone 90, then the people you said haven't got 90 in their legs, how about everyone else that's on the bench? Like, when will they find their level of match fitness if they're not going to get minutes now? They'll unlikely to get them next week if you're saying that's the actual start of the season. Then the week after that, again, you're in the league flow. So he's got so much to manage, because you want everyone to be ready. But can everyone be ready if only certain people are going to get the 90 minutes? Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. It's
That's
tough.
the conundrum, that, isn't it?
Yeah, and you want more players as well.
Well, listen, second half is on the way. Remember, how you watch it is on City Plus and on Recast. And you've also got commentary from Alistair Mann and Michael Brown. Myself, David, Steph and Nedum will be back at full time, so please come join us. But let's head back now to Seoul World Cup Stadium as we take on Atletico Madrid in our second half. 0-0 is the score. We'll be back at full time, hoping City can confirm a third and final win of their pre-season tour in Asia. Thanks for joining. See you at full time.
Welcome back to Seoul as we await the players' arrival at the start of the second half of this pre-season friendly. I say await the arrival because they are coming out. We're just trying to see how many of those who started are still out there. Well, looks like the vast majority of them, to be honest. We've been